So let's take a look at where we are on the red WRX. It's still going slowly but surely, very slowly, but that's okay. It's a project car, just gets occasional work. So for the last update, we've done some work rebuilding the suspension. So all the suspension components have been replaced and new sway bars and sway bar bushings and new tie rod ends and new control arms. And in the case of the front brakes, new rotors and hats. The previous rotors and hats, the rotors and hats were permanently attached. So I got new ones, which you can still get from Willwood, even though this kit is about 20 years old, maybe a tad more than that. So yeah, so these will work well. The 6-pot Willwoods as a replacement for the stock WRX brakes. I cleaned up the teen coilovers. Those are all looking decent now on both sides. And yeah, so that part is looking good. On the rear of the car, sort of the same thing, all new control arms, new trailing arms, lateral links. I pulled the hubs off and replaced the bearings in both the front and the rear, got rid of all the rust and repainted them. So everything's sort of new and shiny. Redid all the bolts, new sway bars as well, new brake lines, and I'm working on the brake calipers right now. I'll rebuild those, plus new rear drum brakes. These are the rear brakes. These are the rear hubs from a Japanese RA Spec C, which happens to be the same as the 04 STI. So they're the 5x100 rears, but the larger rears with Brembo brakes. So those are ticking along well. And let's see. Yeah, that's like a new rotor on there. On the engine component side, I did remove the timing belt and put on a new timing belt. And that was pretty easy. I replaced the water pump and the oil pump. You wouldn't normally replace the oil pump, but I had one here that was new in a box, so I put it in. Replaced all the other parts in the timing chain. So that was pretty easy to do. I also took the valve covers off and replaced the valve cover gaskets because they are always leaking, especially on older cars. New alternator, a new power steering pump. Both of those, well, the power steering pump was leaking and the alternator was a little flaky. So some new parts there. I cleaned up everything, repainted it. I did use these little phenolic spacers on the intake manifold, which the theory is it separates heat from the engine to the intake manifold, which I suspect makes zero difference, but I put them on primarily because it raises the intake manifold up just a little bit, which gives a little more room, which makes it easier to fit these intakes underneath there. So other things just cleaned up. The turbocharger I pulled off and cleaned up and put some new bolts and took the up pipe and the exhaust off the car and got rid of all the rust and ceramic coated everything. And so that all looks brand new. I removed the factory fuel rails and I have, you can see the little AN fitting right there. So I need to basically design the fuel rails, the path for the fuel lines. It's easy to do. I just will do it closer to the end because I want to have a good clean path for it. So we'll have new fuel rails, same pink injectors, a new fuel pressure regulator there, and I'll put a new fuel filter in before we hook everything back up. So it's coming together. One thing on the fuel rails is that, you know, these are sort of standard, inexpensive aluminum billet fuel rails with AN fittings, and I've built many cars with AN fittings. But we're going to take a quick diversion and talk about AN fittings for fuel systems because they have some pluses and some minuses. The minuses being if you do it wrong, you'll burn your car to the ground. So it's a pretty big minus. So let's take a quick diversion and talk about that for just a moment. So let's talk a little bit about AN fittings as it relates to your fuel system. They're commonly used. I've used AN fittings on many of my cars. And obviously many car builders use AN fittings all the time. But there are a couple of risks related to how you use them that can make them a little problematic, especially for fuel, because a fuel leak can very quickly lead to a fire that can destroy your entire car and your investment very quickly. And so we'll take a look at the AN fitting here, and I have a couple of them here. And I'm going to unscrew this one. And the AN fitting fundamentally seals because of this little machined edge here. This is a flat machined edge. And on the other side of the fitting, inside of here, there's a reverse fitting of that exact same angle. And those two pieces of aluminum are sandwiched together by the turning of these threads. And just that flat surface on the flat surface is what seals. There's no O-ring, There's not a groove. It's just two pieces of flat aluminum that are being pressed together. And the area of that compression is what provides the seal. So the seal only works because you have this nut relatively tight, and it's compressing those two planes together along that flat surface, and that provides the seal. So a couple things. One is that a slight reduction in tension here. So this fitting being even slightly loose means it will leak. Unlike a fitting, for instance, that maybe has an O-ring where the tightening nut is merely to prevent it from having force pushed against it. But the O-ring itself is the seal. There is no O-ring in here. There is no seal other than that precise compression of those two flat surfaces. So one is that these are prone to leak if they get loose. So then the question is, well, why would they get loose? Now, the obvious things are you don't tighten them enough. That's an easy one. Just raw vibrations of the nut itself. If you don't have it super tight and eventually it vibrates loose. If there's some abrasion or something against the nut that causes it to be turned, to be loose. But a bigger one really is just if you have a hose coming out of here, and I'll take this fitting off here so you can see it. The hose attaches here and it goes maybe out this way. But this piece that the hose is attached to, this is the piece that is going up against this flat surface here. They're the same piece. There's just two pieces here. This back piece and then the front nut. And so when this is threaded on, and you have a hose coming out of here, as you tighten this, you're gonna instill some torque into that hose. And of course the hose is a little bit springy, so it wants to spring back. So you're already starting out with, you're tightening this nut, and there's already a little bit of force kind of unlocking this all the time. Now, it's not a huge amount, and it's not gonna cause this nut to turn if you have it tight enough, but it's a little bit of force there. Now you also then go to the other side where you tighten the other side down. And of course that's going in the opposite direction relative to this. So then you're kind of back feeding in torque the other way that's also working to unwind this. So you have both of those two forces. But then more so, if this goes through some path, maybe it goes up and over and around, you almost always impair some rotational force on that cable. And if that force is going backwards, then it's constantly trying to make this connector go loose. And if it's vibrating, especially to where the torque will pulse in and out a little bit, then you're just constantly working this loose. And so the solution to that, of course, is to have enough tension by having this tight enough that that doesn't overcome the nut, that force going against it. And a straight fitting, I don't think it's a huge deal. It can certainly happen, but it's mostly having the nut not tight enough combined with, for some reason, a ton of rotational torque twisting on that cable, trying to make it come loose. But 90-degree fittings are a whole different thing though, because there, visualize you have a hose coming out here. And so this hose going into this fitting, this is kind of like a little miniature torque wrench or just a wrench, in that a small amount of force out here is multiplied by this arm to quite a bit of rotational force here. And so if you have a hose coming out here, and over here the hose is going up and down, it's maybe vibrating or it's not tied down, it's constantly applying force here to loosen that. And even worse is it's constantly going a little tight and a little loose and a little tight and a little loose. And so over time, that vibration can just kick this a little bit. And once it gets a little bit loose and you lose the seal, then the fuel will come past that seal and into the threads. And so now the threads are nice and lubricated. You're moving this a little more, and pretty soon the coupler is done enough that fuel is coming out and leaking into your engine bay. And so with 90-degree fittings especially, you have to be really careful that the hose coming out is well supported and tied down in a way that it can't be a gigantic vibrating torque arm that's constantly trying to undo the energy you put into this nut being tight. And so if you're going to install one of these 90-degree fittings, and this is going to go along some path, make sure you have a way to zip tie it or clamp it in a way that it's supported such that it isn't experiencing that constant desire to either tighten or untighten this fitting. It's especially true if this is, let's say, on the engine and the hose is going to a fitting, say, on a fuel filter that's on the firewall. So the engine is moving separate from the firewall, of course. And so it's constantly doing this motion. And this nice little long torque arm makes that small amount of motion here translate into quite a bit of torque to undo this nut here. So if you're going to use these, it's not that you can't use them in fuel systems. Obviously people have, and I've used them in many cars. But the configuration of how the hoses are ran and the forces against those hoses can make it such that it will work its way loose, and that's a bad thing. So if you're going to install these, think about how you're going to support the hoses themselves so they're not a source of rotation, and also come up with a scheme where you regularly check that these fasteners are torqued down properly. And so maybe at every oil change or every couple of gas fill-ups, something, you do a quick check, at least the ones that are easy to get to, that they are in fact snug. Because if one of these comes a little bit loose, it'll pretty quickly turn into a fuel leak, which could very quickly turn into a somewhat catastrophic event in your car. So something to keep in mind to make sure that you don't burn your car down.